The Republican Party's failed sham Biden impeachment inquiry was subjected to back-to-back public humiliations. First, when CNN host Boris Sanchez relentlessly fact-checked a MAGA Republican to his face, and then when Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin torched the GOP on the floor of the House of Representatives. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to play in this video. Earlier today, we talked about the Biden impeachment inquiry for the first time in a while, and I said it had been a while. And then I saw these clips. I'm like, wow, my audience is going to get a twofer because the failed sham Biden impeachment inquiry is the centerpiece of the clips I'm about to show you. I want to start with Boris Sanchez, who is a CNN host, a rising star. He's somebody we've talked about in previous videos. He is competing. He's trying to take the crown from Caitlin Collins, who right now seems to be the biggest powerhouse at CNN. Sanchez really excels at relentlessly fact-checking Republicans. And for whatever reason, this Republican congressman here, his last name is Tiffany, decided to try to peddle falsehoods and lies about President Biden in the failed sham Biden impeachment inquiry. But unfortunately for him, Sanchez quite literally brought the receipts.
And there's no evidence in any of the documents put out by the Oversight Committee that a single dollar went to President Biden when he was in office. Therefore, there's no evidence that he did anything illegal, that he abused his power, or that he abused his power in office to help his family members or friends get wealthy.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden has a check in the amount of $40,000 that has his name on it. You got another $200,000 check that came from Jim and Sarah Biden to him. I mean, there's over $20 million here.
I actually have that check here. That was a check from 2018 when he was not vice president, and it actually says that this was a reimbursal. This was a loan repayment from his brother.
So you can make the case that the Bidens did not do this while Joe Biden was vice president, but I think it's contrary to the record. And it's contrary to what happened when Joe Biden was vice president and he went and called off the prosecutor in Ukraine in regards to the Burisma investigation.
Sir, that has been debunked. That prosecutor was unanimously disliked by both Republicans and Democrats, and even EU officials said that he was corrupt and they wanted him out. Nevertheless, Congressman, we do have to leave the conversation there. We do appreciate you coming on. We hope you'll come again soon.
That was brutal. Tom Tiffany, you could even hear him stammering, I suppose because he forgot how good Boris Sanchez was at his job, or perhaps he thought that Boris Sanchez might have forgotten the relevant facts, but Sanchez anticipated the GOP's conspiracy theories and lies, and so he literally had a printout of the very check that he predicted Tom Tiffany would bring up. So as a reminder, the impeachment effort against President Biden has hit multiple dead ends to the point, as we discussed in a previous video, it's been publicly acknowledged repeatedly by members of right-wing media, the Fox Propaganda Network, Newsmax, Bill O'Reilly. I mean, other Republicans who have a vested political interest in removing President Biden from power have said this has been a horribly mismanaged effort. James Comer and Jim Jordan have failed spectacularly. And one of the conspiracy theories that they've offered is like, listen, you know, Joe Biden loaned his brother and his son money. In Hunter's case, it was for a truck loan payment, okay? And then Joe Biden's brother and his son, Hunter, paid the loans back. But if Hunter and James were into some sort of corrupt, illegal shenanigans, that loan should also count as some sort of like culpability on Joe Biden's part. It's kind of like, you know, if I loan you, viewer, money, and you pay me back, but you got that money in part from selling weed in a state where, you know, it's illegal, that would be like trying to blame me just because you paid me back. No, that's not how culpability works. They have the bank records to prove Biden loaned his brother and son money, and they paid him back. Even if we grant everything else that Hunter and James Biden were up to corrupt shenanigans, that doesn't transfer to President Biden, especially when Joe Biden was not in office at the time. As Republicans have pointed out, honest ones, if they want to impeach President Biden, they have to prove that as president, he violated his oath of office and engaged in corrupt activities. They haven't. So even if we grant them everything, which we shouldn't do, and we're not going to, They still don't have a winning case here. Absolute humiliation for Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany and the GOP collectively, because again, Boris Sanchez brought the receipts and debunked the conspiracy theory. We've talked about Viktor Shokin, the corrupt Ukrainian prosecutor. Then Vice President Biden, under Barack Obama, was executing official Obama State Department policy. We were the guarantors of an IMF loan to Ukraine, right? One of those conditions is, hey, we're basically going out on a limb here. We're giving you loans. We're guarantors of other loans. It's our name, our credibility on the line. We want to make sure that this money is going to a functioning democracy, which is cleaning up its abundant corruption. So if you want this money, if you want us to guarantee this money, you will clean up corruption. And you're effectively their attorney general, the general prosecutor. He is corrupt. The European Union says so. Our State Department says so. So if you want our money, you better fire him. And that's exactly what happened. That's perfectly reasonable. That's not a corrupt quid pro quo. That is doing a reasonable, responsible thing in exchange for the money going to a country that was in the process of cleaning up its corruption, right? America is not obligated to give foreign aid without strings. It's perfectly reasonable to say we're only going to give money to countries that are in the process of seriously cleaning up their abundant corruption. Perfectly reasonable, unlike what Donald Trump did when he was president, which was withhold congressionally approved aid in exchange for trying to force Ukraine to investigate Trump's domestic political rival. That is corrupt. It is corrupt to say, hey, listen, I would give you money that Congress told me I need to give you in the first place. These military aid, these missiles. Congress told me I need to give you these, but I'm going to hold up until you agree to help me out in my domestic election. That is a corrupt quid pro quo. And of course, MAGA Republicans in bad faith try to blur the lines. But again, absolutely brutal fact check by Boris Sanchez. Now let's get to Congressman Jamie Raskin, who's one of my favorite. I want to play a couple of clips here because this very same day, he went to the floor of the House and excoriated the GOP for their failed sham Biden impeachment inquiry as they were set to vote on holding Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress.
Holding the Attorney General of the United States in contempt is one more useful distraction from the complete and devastating implosion of the Biden impeachment probe, which of course was the number one priority of these talented leaders. Remember, they promised to reveal the greatest presidential high crime and misdemeanor in American history, an act of treachery and deceit that dwarfs even the incitement of a violent mob insurrection and an attempted political coup that took place right here against our Constitution, our Congress, our Vice President, in this chamber. But after their truly prodigious investigation, punctuated, admittedly, by some unfortunate mishaps like Chinese spies, fake evidence, pornographic displays in committee, and their own witnesses testifying that there were no grounds for presidential impeachment, they have nothing to show for their arduous work other than one more debunked Russian disinformation operation and one more indicted GOP informant and star witness. And why is that important? Well, in case you've lost the thread of this madcap wild goose chase, America, remember this is an impeachment investigation. Do they think that the holy grail of the 118th Congress, evidence of a presidential high crime and misdemeanor, is lurking in the pauses or the background throat clearings and sneezes on the audio tape? Well, of course not. They know there's no high crime or misdemeanor to be found because they've spent the last 17 months and millions of our taxpayer dollars looking for it, and it simply does not exist. They literally don't even know what they're looking for anymore. So why do they want it? Well, they're hoping that in the 5 hours of President Biden's testimony, they can find a mispronounced word or phrase or a brief stammer, which they can then turn into an embarrassing political TV attack ad. Get it, America? That's what this is all about. And why is that important? Well,
first off, Jamie Raskin is so good at this. It is one of my wishes. It's on my bucket list to interview this man, and I hope one day he runs for president. He's a constitutional scholar, a master rhetorician and debater, and he's the single most important figure, in my opinion, in the Democratic coalition in the House of Representatives. He's kind of like the elder statesman that the likes of AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Jared Moskowitz and Dan Goldman and Maxwell Frost turn to. He's the backbone of the Democratic Party's competence and confidence. And again, I can't wait to see what he is capable of if Democrats retake control of the House of Representatives with the majority. But again, what he's talking about is they're trying to hold the Attorney General in contempt for not providing the audio recording of a full transcript that they already have, the conversation between Special Counsel Robert Hur and President Biden. Republicans suggest that the transcript has been altered. They have no evidence of it. But what, as he says, what they really want is because they can't actually provide evidence of an impeachable offense, they want the audio so that they can use it to hurt President Biden politically. And we've talked about this in previous videos. Even Newsmax, who hates Biden, they've called out Republicans, as we've discussed in previous videos, saying, guys, listen, just admit that this is political and you just want to stick it to Joe Biden. And indeed they do. Great stuff here, but that just goes to show how the impeachment effort against the president has failed. And it's incumbent on Jamie Raskin and on you and me and everybody else to make Republicans pay the price at the ballot box for this misuse of political capital, for this witch hunt. And hopefully we will in November. Let me know what you think in the comments.